Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I realize that I'm not here at school today, but hopefully this video finds you well and finds you prepared to talk about the last 4 examples in your notes that we started on Monday. These 4 examples are going to cover the hardest possible situations we can run into while we are solving multiple step inequalities. Now remember that as we solve a multiple step inequality, that is a 4-step process. Step 1 in that process is to expand. In other words, we are going to distribute and get rid of any and all parentheses. After we expand and get rid of any parentheses, we are then supposed to combine any like terms on each side of the equation. After that, we are going to isolate the variable by moving the x to one side and the number to the other. And then finally, we will divide to get x. Now remember that with an inequality, if we multiply or divide by a negative number at any point in time, we have to reverse the inequality symbol. So let's take a look at example 15. Again, there are 4 of these examples here, and these are about as hard as these ever get. And let's talk our way through it. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to expand, which means we need to take this negative 3 and we need to distribute it to 4x and to 3. We need to take this positive 4 and we need to distribute it to 6x and 1. Now I know that the space on your paper is limited, so it is possible that you could just watch what's happening here. Okay, we need to do negative 3 times 4x, negative 3 times 3, 4 times 6x, and 4 times 1. And all of this is still greater than 43. Now I also feel like I need to note that there was a typo on this problem. There was an x missing right here. So please make sure that on your paper you've included that x, because that was a typo when I printed the papers. Alright, so we multiply that out, and you should write this step down. That would be negative 12x minus 9, because 3 times 3 is 9, plus 4 times 6, which is 24x, plus 4 times 1, which is 4, is greater than 43. That takes care of our expand step. Now we need to look for like terms. On the left side of this equation, we have 2 different terms that have an x. Those can be added together. Negative 12x plus 24x would be 12x. Okay, then we can add the numbers together. Negative 9 plus 4, those are both numbers. Negative 9 plus 4 would be negative 5, is greater than 43. This takes care of the combine step. Next, we need to isolate the variable. So we look at this and we see that we have 12x. We need to get rid of minus 5. To get rid of minus 5, we need to add 5 to both sides of the equation. That would give us, or inequality in this case, 12x is greater than 48. The final step in the process then would be to divide by 12 to get x by itself. Since we're dividing by a positive number, we do not need to affect the sign in any way. So our answer is x is greater than 4. We have discussed how that means that we need to put 4 in the middle of our number line. We need at least one number, preferably a couple of numbers on each side. Now, from there, we're graphing this. So this symbol means that we have an open circle at 4, and x is greater than 4. Remember, that sort of points the direction we're supposed to shade. So according to that symbol, we are supposed to shade the greater than side, which is to the right. Okay, now this is a big time multiple step inequality, so there are a lot of steps to this. We just need to follow what we know about linear equations, because a linear inequality behaves exactly like a linear equation. This is also me filibustering, by which I mean I am talking so that everyone in the room has enough time to get example 15 written completely down. If there's not been enough time for this yet, then Ms. Lewis can pause the video and make sure everybody's got what they need, and then we'll move on to example 16. Again, on example 16, we have some parentheses, so the first thing that we need to do is distribute. Here we have a negative 1 that needs to be distributed to 1 and 7x. Here we have a negative 6 that needs to be distributed to negative 7 and negative x. So again, you don't have a lot of room on your paper, so I'm just going to write this out up here, but you may not have enough room to show this step. We are going to do negative 1 times 1, negative 1 times 7x, negative 6 times negative 7, negative 6 times negative x. And then we're going to multiply those things out, which would be negative 1 minus 1 times 7 is 7x, plus, because a negative times a negative is a positive 42, plus 6x, because negative 6 times negative x is positive 6x. This takes care of the expand step, where we distribute to get rid of the parentheses. Next, we're going to combine like terms. Once again, on the left side of the equation, we have two different terms that contain an x. We put those together. Negative 7 plus 6 is negative 1x. We also have two numbers, negative 1 and positive 42. We add those together to get 41. It is greater than or equal to 36. That takes care of the combine step. Next, we are going to isolate the x. So we are going to subtract 41 from each side to get this x term by itself. That would give us negative 1x is greater than or equal to negative 5. And then our final step, we need to divide by negative 1. Now we've discussed how when we divide by a negative number, we have to flip the sign. So since we're dividing by a negative 1, our greater than or equal to sign is going to turn into a less than or equal to sign, giving us x is less than or equal to 5. This means 5 needs to be in the middle, a couple numbers above and below it on the number line. Our symbol here is telling us that we have a closed circle at 5. So we're going to close that circle up at 5, okay? And then it's telling us which direction to shade. It's telling us to shade to the left. So we're going to shade the less than side, including the arrowhead. And that is our solution and our graph for example 16. All right. So again, Ms. Lewis is going to pause the video and make sure that everybody has what they need, and then Ms. Lewis is going to have you try example 17 on your own. She's going to give you just a couple of minutes to try example 17. When everybody's had a couple minutes, we'll resume the video and continue with example 17. Okay, so here on example 17, again, we're going to start with a distribution. This time we have one set of parentheses on each side. It does not change our approach. We still distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So we have negative 11 plus 10 times x plus 10 times 10 is less than 4 minus 5 times 2x minus 5 times 11. Then we will actually multiply those things out to get negative 11 plus 10 times x, which is 10x, plus 10 times 10, which is 100, is less than 4 minus 10x, because negative 5 times 2 is negative 10, minus 55. All right, now we're going to go to the combine step. On the left side of the equation, we have two numbers, 100 and negative 11. So we can add those two together. That would be 10x plus 89, 100 minus 11 is 89, is less than, and then on the other side, we still have two numbers there as well. So we're going to add those together. So we would have a negative 10x, and then we would have 4 minus 55, which is negative 51. Next, we need to isolate the variable. So currently, we have an x on both sides of the equation. We don't want that. So we are going to move the negative 10x to the right side of the equation by adding 10x to both sides. That will give us 20x plus 89 is less than negative 51. Then, to continue to isolate the x, we need to get rid of plus 89, which means we need to subtract 89 from each side of the equation. This would give us 20x is less than negative 140. Negative 51 minus 89 is negative 140. That takes care of the isolate step. So the final step would be to divide. We need to get x by itself, so we would divide by 20, which would give us x is less than negative 7 for our answer. Now we've been struggling with our number lines when it comes to negative numbers. Remember that for negative numbers, the bigger the negative number is, the smaller the number really is. So if negative 7 is in the middle, then numbers like negative 5, negative 3, negative 1 are bigger. They'd be to the right. Negative 9, negative 11, negative 13 would be to the left. Now, that number line does say that we need an open circle at negative 7. And it tells us to shade to the left. So we are going to shade to the left. One example to go. Again, Miss Lewis, if you need more time, just pause the video. On number 18, same deal. We're going to start by expanding. We're going to multiply these parentheses out. This time we have 3 sets of parentheses to distribute. So that's 9 times x plus 9 times 1 minus 11 is less than or equal to negative 2 times 2x minus 2 times 4 minus 3 times 2x minus 3 times negative 2. We actually multiply each of these things, which would be 9x plus 9 minus 11 is less than or equal to negative 4x minus 8 minus 6x plus 6. This takes care of the expand step. Next, we need to combine like terms. On the left side, we have two numbers, so we're going to combine those to get negative 2. 9 minus 11 is negative 2. Just bring that 9x down. That does not change. On the right side, we have a pair of x's, a negative 4x and a negative 6x. We combine those to get negative 10x. And we have a pair of numbers. Negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. That takes care of the combine step. Next up, we would isolate the variable. So to isolate the variable, we need to add 10x to each side so that there is not an x on both sides of the inequality. That would give us 1x minus 2 is less than or equal to negative 2. Then to finish isolating x, we need to move the negative 2. So we add 2 to both sides. Now again, we need to be a little bit careful here that we don't confuse ourselves. That means our answer is x is less than or equal to 0. So 0 needs to be in the middle of our number line, meaning we have some numbers on each side. And we're all doing very well with this part. less than or equal to means we have a closed circle at 0, and we are supposed to shade to the left. Okay, between the examples that we covered in class yesterday and this video, we should now be able to complete the entire homework assignment. So the remainder of the period today is time for you to work on that homework assignment. Hopefully you've been doing your homework each night and you only have to finish the 4 hard problems at the very end. But the entire homework assignment is now assigned and it is due tomorrow. So make sure that you have the entire packet of multiple step inequality homework done and ready to turn in tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time and attention.